My name is Omar Shareef. A little bit about myself. I am a psychiatrist by practice, so I'm a doctor, and my specialty is mental health, so tabib al-nafs. And I've been doing mental health lectures for, oh my God, I don't know, like maybe 9 years now, thereabout. And after I got married to my wife Alaa, I joined an organization called the FYI, the Family and Youth Institute. You're going to hear more about it, but this is one of the organizations that we do Muslim mental health talks in. And so the two of us here are representing the Family and Youth Institute tonight. So that's a little bit about myself. I'm born and raised in New York, and my parents are Indian and Pakistani. So Pakistani on my mom's side, Indian on my dad's side. So I hate myself as a result. And it's a little bit odd to have an intercultural marriage. But I think one of the most beautiful choices I made in my life, aside from medical school, was actually marrying Alaa. And I think it's one of the foremost blessings of my life to be introduced to the Palestinian community like this. So it's pretty beautiful, mashallah. You get to have biryani one night and maqluba the next. So pretty legit, in my opinion. So that's just a little bit about myself and how I got connected to Alaa and our organization tonight. So it'll be a pleasure, inshallah, to talk to you guys on this topic, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ameen, Ameen. May Allah continue to bless us with salam, especially in a time where that's what we yearn for the most, is to be content in our hearts, bodies, souls, and feel His rahmah and His barakat. Ameen. So my name is Alaa, and I'm a therapist by practice. My background is in Islamic therapy, Islamic psychology. And although I do see Muslim clients in the community, I also see non-Muslim clients. Oh, so I have to use the microphone, huh? Okay, can you
Sure,
hear
you
me
want
better?
the headset?
No.
You're saying you can't come on.
So yeah, I see clients for mental health issues that are your average depression, anxiety, issues at home, with family, with parenting and children. I also see children. I said average because the truth is mental health and mental illness is on a spectrum. And to some degree, we all experience some level of distress mentally, emotionally, socially, and psychologically, as well as spiritually. But yes, so Omar and I are going to model the union of two souls, two becoming one. So we might fight up here. No, I'm just kidding. But we'll both share not only, but mainly what research shows about how healthy marriages come to be. And the truth is, we don't have too many spaces where we could talk about this in our community. And so we're so honored and happy, alhamdulillah, to be invited here to speak on a topic that is very, very highly regarded in our Islamic tradition, marriage and developing healthy marriage. So we'll dive right into it. If you want to go to the first slide, this is a little bit about the organization that Omar mentioned, the Family and Youth Institute. Besides the fact that we both met each other through this organization, it really is a Family and Youth Institute. But we do research within the Muslim community. It's a national organization, so we are in so many different states, but we also do presentations. So it's not just research, but we make the research accessible through presentations across the states on mental health issues, marriage issues, family, parenting issues, and marriage, mental health, family, and youth risk behaviors. So you'll see a lot of research and data that we bring up. But the whole goal of our organization is to empower our Muslim youth, empower our Muslim families, and ultimately empower our Muslim communities. We use what we know from our Islamic tradition, as well as research, evidence-backed research, which fully aligns with our Islamic values. So to start,
We're going to give a quick disclaimer. So this is super important that this is a mental health event. We're going to be talking about a lot of Islamically psychological concepts. However, this is not therapy. We are not here to give you guys therapy. It doesn't really work that way. It's kind of just education that we're doing. And whatever we're giving you guys is education. And it does not count as actual counseling or support. If you are interested in therapy and counseling, you can certainly talk to Alaa and I, and we can help connect you, inshallah, to resources for that. But I do want to clarify for everybody. So I don't want you guys going home and like diagnosing your friends and family with what we're going to talk about tonight. Please don't do that. So just a quick disclaimer for that. So the way Alaa and I are going to present is you really can't lecture people about mental health. It doesn't work that way. It's got to be a discussion in which you open up as well. So the way we're going to do it is on the screen, you guys are going to see, oops, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I just realized that I don't have it enabled on mine. Let me open up Slido separately. Yeah, no, unless you have an HDMI. But it's okay. Give me 1 sec, guys. I'm just going to pull up Slido. And then what I'd like everyone to do is to take all your phones out. And we're going to be using your phones to actually interact with us for tonight's event. Slido login. Mm-hmm. Got it. Jazakallah. Thank you.
Yeah, ultimately what we hope for is to get your engagement, because that's what we'll go based off of. We prepared a lot of slides, maybe a little too much, but we won't go into all of them. Our goal is that when we understand where you guys are at in the marriage process, that's what we will focus heavily on. We want to make sure that we all leave with something. So we'll have some
up on the screen, like Alaa mentioned. Please take your phones out and then scan the QR code that you guys see up on the screen. If you're having a little bit of difficulty with it, I know the dudes over here, a little bit of an odd angle. Let me know if y'all are good. You're good? Okay, so phones out and then scan the QR code that you guys see up on the screen. Throughout the entirety of tonight, while Alaa and I are talking, on your phone, you'll actually see a second tab for a question and answer. So at any point, you guys can actually submit your questions as we're talking. And then we'll pull it up at the end, inshallah, and then go through the Q&A. But in the first tab, you guys will see what the question is that we're going to be engaging you with.
We'll do our best not to talk too much throughout the slides, so that we have time for Q&A at the end. But if anyone does feel like they want to submit an anonymous question, you're more than welcome to do that throughout the session today, inshallah.
Yes. So here is our very first question that we're going to have. Again, you can scan the QR code if you guys need to join. And the first question is, at what stage are all of you in the marriage process? And I understand that some of you here are elderly, mashallah, full of wisdom. And you can certainly answer married if you are married. If you're engaged, you can be engaged. If you have experienced divorced and are currently divorced, you can put that. If you're single and not ready, or if you're single and are actively looking right now.
You can also put more than one answer. So if you are divorced and currently in talk with someone or looking, you're more than welcome to put more than one answer.
Yes, and if you're currently married and looking to marry a second wife, you can put that as well.
That's not funny.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you shouldn't. That's a whole other conversation.
We'll give you guys a couple minutes or a little bit more time to complete the responses.
Yes. I'll give it like another minute or two for everyone to submit their answers, and then we'll get started. That's pretty cool. We got like about 20 people joined. Yeah, right now. Not bad. If you haven't joined with your phone, astaghfirullah, what are you doing? You can't engage like this. If you can't even communicate with me, how can you communicate with your spouse? You know? So there we go. One more person. Alhamdulillah. Good job. All right. So I'm going to close up in the next like 4 or 5 seconds. Ready. It should. Yeah, it's not showing for us. Actually, wait. You want to join?
Oh,
Yeah, you and I can join.
I'm married.
I'm married too. Yeah, we could totally join also. Perfect. Okay. Excellent. All right. Here we go. I've locked our poll. Can show results. Here we go. Perfect. Excellent. All right. So take a look, guys. Here we go. So as of tonight, we've got about 41% of our crowd single and actively looking. 32% of you are single but not ready. About a third of you. Only a quarter, 23%, are married. A small number of you are currently in talks right now. MashaAllah, and may Allah put barakah in those talks if you're currently in talks. 9% are divorced, and not a single person in this entire masjid is currently engaged. You know, may Allah increase you guys in engagements. You know, it's been heartbreaking. Oh, inshallah, let's see. Maybe we can get the 73% of us that are single into the engaged category, inshallah. So, okay, so it sounds like majority of people here are single, is from the looks of it, with a quarter of the room being married. What do you see?
Yeah, I think it's so important to pay attention to the diversity that we have in the room, but then also kind of consider the diverse experiences we all come with, right? And inshallah, that's what we'll talk a little bit more about.
Okay, awesome. Let's jump back in.
So, single and actively looking are the majority. We'll talk a little bit more about the preparation for marriage and what steps a person can take going into marriage. We'll focus mostly on that, and then what a healthy marriage can look like.
Yes. Oops, sorry. Okay, so we start first with preparing yourself for marriage. So this will be for the single folks that are in the audience today. So everybody who put that you're single and either not ready or single and looking. So the first thing we're going to talk about is there's two key things Alaa and I are going to focus on for marriage prep. The first thing we're going to be talking about is knowing yourself, and the second thing is going to be assessing for compatibility. So one of the problems that we usually tend to encounter when it comes to Muslim relationships and Muslims getting married to one another is that you tend to do this work after you're already married. And at this particular point, it puts tremendous strain on the relationship because you didn't really get to know yourself all that well. And your spouse also probably didn't do much research into themselves as well. And now every conversation you're having is more of a conflict and a clash than it is an actual smooth process, for this. Typically what happens is that if you don't understand yourself very well, what I mean by that, you're going to see what we mean when we delve into it, is that if you haven't done enough work on yourself, and what we talk about are two key concepts, tarbiyah and taskiyah. If you have not been able to do self-work and self-development, you're going to have a hard time in your marriage, period. It will not be an easy process for you for this. And if you and your spouse do have a marriage in which you come together, you're going to have a lot of headbutting and clashes in your marriage, meaning that your marriage will grow, but it's going to be a painful growth process because the hard work wasn't done pre-nikah. It was all done post-nikah, when the stakes are much higher and the stress is much higher on you. So it's a lot more difficult to do this work beforehand. But these are the two key things we're going to be focusing on, which is how to do that self-development and then how to actually assess to know if this girl or if this guy is the right one for you.
Before we move to the next slide, can you go back to the slide on tranquility?
Sure, of course.
I just kind of want to briefly gauge what we understand about the purpose of marriage. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sets the framework for us. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us that in and of his signs, it is that he created you from yourselves, mates that you may find tranquility in them. And he placed between you affection and mercy. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who give thought. And in other verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us, for the spouses, we are garments to one another, right? We are protectors for one another. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sets the frame The question is, how do we do that? How do we attain tranquility? And so, as Umar briefly talked about the two aspects of there's yourself and then there's the person. There's knowing yourself and then there's understanding how this person and you will find compatibility and create tranquility, right? Create a sense of mawadda and rahma. But the truth is, there are so many emotions that arise in marriage. In life in general, for all of our single people who already, who are single in the room, how many ranges of emotions do we experience from day to day as a single person? That's a part of that's a part of nature, the part of our life. And when you're married, for all of our married folks in here, how many times, if not multiplied, are you experiencing emotions throughout the day? Through marriage, we're when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes and when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam embodies that two people are like mirrors for one another, there's no greater mirror than between a person and their spouse. Because now you're truly reflecting. You're finding your reflection in the other person, and you are reflecting to the other person. And we want to be mindful of what it is we are giving off. If we don't know ourselves, it's going to be very challenging to be present in this relationship and to be our healthy version or a healthy version of ourselves in this relationship, in our marriage. So tranquility is a goal, but there's work that is required to achieve that tranquility, sukoon, mawadda, rahma.
Okay, so I'm going to open the Slido back up. Here we go. What are some of your expectations about marriage? So if you guys didn't scan in, just make sure to scan the QR code to join our conversation. And for this particular conversation, it's a free type answer. So you guys will actually type into your phone and then click submit. What are some of the expectations you have about marriage? Or if you're already married, what are some of the current expectations you have for your relationship or where you are in your relationship?
What does marriage mean to you? And what do you expect in marriage?
You can submit multiple answers, by the way. Just don't troll us. That's what I would ask. I'm kind of surprised how quiet this chat is. I can tell you when I hang around a bunch of Arabs, y'all don't know when to stop talking, but here you guys are silent.
That's just me.
Oh, this is you? Okay, here we go. Let's show what you guys are saying.
And you can continue.
Yeah, you can keep typing as
putting
I'm going
everything.
through this. Okay, so what are some of your expectations about marriage? I see here Wadda and Rahma. You literally just copied Alaa, whoever put that answer in. Companionship, barakah and rizq, responsibility, comfort, safety, like-minded best friend to share life with. That the two partners should never stop growing together and learning from one another. That's a beautiful answer. For both of us to grow and get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Loyalty, respect, trust, friend, lifelong partner share life with, motivator for Jannah. Respect, honesty, loyalty, a partner in everything, a true partner in all endeavors, one supports, grows, and learns with you as you get older, ultimately creating a life together. Headaches. Thank you for the one honest answer, whoever put that. Yes. What are some of your expectations about marriage? Headaches. And you will have them. I expect to go through many moments, both humbling and growth, that will allow me to draw closer to myself and Allah. Beautiful. A lot of self-reflection, loving, caring person, building my future life, connecting to Allah, build family, have kids, continue the human being purpose that Allah created humans for, marriage, peace and rahmah, love and trust. Both the husband and wife have responsibilities and roles, sacred bond, through the highs and lows. Wow, you guys are giving very peaceful understanding, share, pursue the goal, peace and home, work collective. This is the most Oh, Yasser. Honestly, facts. Hmm? You think so? All right. Maybe it came from the back. You never know.
Probably meant Yusr. Yusr. E.
Shout out to Yasser, man. May Allah increase you in riz and risk. Riz, and risk. Companionship, respect, even in arguments. I would say a partner helping me in my growth, a way of helping myself better, a lot. Religious, beautiful partner is the most important thing, mashallah. So this is how I know most of the guys are liars with these answers. Because like whenever I sit with the guys, these are not what you talk about when we talk about marriage and expectations. It's really not. I imagine this is probably what sisters talk about when you guys, maybe it's more egalitarian when you guys discuss marriage. For dudes, it's a lot more locker room like, I think, when we discuss marriage. Yeah, I don't think I've ever sat with a group of guys and the first guy is like, I'm looking for a partner to help me with my growth so that we can learn together from like the challenges of life. I think most of the guys would be like, bro, are you okay? What is wrong with you? Okay, alhamdulillah, finally, an Arab answer. Someone's yelling. Allah said it all, tranquility, caps lock, and mercy, along with active thinking for active problem solving. Yes, absolutely. What my expectations were about marriage was I was at a point in my life in which I was feeling rather isolated and lonely. And I was hoping that marriage would be something that would help me to bond and connect with someone and would allow me to have like a BFF, like a best friend. No offense to the guys that I hang out with. Y'all are great guys, mashallah, but you're not BFFs. So I was hoping to have like a BFF for that. And I think what I learned through my marriage is my expectation was a bit immature and overblown because that's not actually what your spouse is. Like I had mentioned before, your spouse is not meant to be a friend to you. Your spouse is a garment to you. Your spouse is literally someone who covers you, beautifies you, makes you more elegant, and actually makes you more presentable, both to people, your community, but more so makes you more presentable to Allah. And the most important thing also is that this is half your deen. And I was someone who was struggling with my deen when I was in the early beginning parts of our marriage talks. And this is a big part of the growth in the relationship. It's not easy. Like this growth, everyone talks about growth here, but like growth is not like a quick, easy thing. Growth is a difficult thing. Growth is a painful thing. Growth is conflict. Growth is in-laws. Growth is I'm at a different point than you're at. Growth is we'd have to learn now not to be husband and wife. We have to learn how to be roommates. We have to learn how to actually coexist together. We have to learn how to be together in certain things and our own separate ways and doing our own thing in other ways. It's about taking two complete lives and combining them together. That's not an easy expectation. That's a difficult expectation, for that. So expectations about marriage change depending on where you are right now. So all the single guys who commented, Jazakallah khair, thank you for that. I'm willing to bet you if you compared your answers with the married guys, you'd see that the expectations shift and change as you go. And then if you have some of the more elderly ammos that are here, you're going to see the expectations shift even more once you've got kids and grandkids in the picture. Everything shifts and changes for you as you go.
When you think about the answers that were given, a lot of them reflect on the goals of marriage, what we hope to receive in our marriage, right? The companionship, the person to grow with, the person to help build our deen together. And I wanted to joke and say Yasser, but
Yasser too, mashallah. Yasser's goals.
A lot of these answers, are beautiful. And oftentimes we'll say, okay, like the person who said, well, Allah already told us. Like, why do we even have to talk about marriage? What is the purpose of preparing for marriage? We already know, right? But in reality, the expectations we have of how to get there is unclear, right? And if you go to the next slide, there are actually so many misconceptions of what marriage is. And in reality, it's not all butterflies and fairy tale. It's not all a big, beautiful story. Like Omar was talking about the pain that it takes to get there. And we say, like, there's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, inna ma'al usri yusra, right? Like there is going to be pain, but in it, embedded in the pain and difficulty is yusr, is beauty, and is ease, and is comfort. And if you kind of think about, marriage is going to challenge us to grow, and in the growing pain, we can find the support in another person, the patience in another person. But when you look at some of these misconceptions about marriage, how many of them resonate with you? How many of us have heard, right, marriage is the finish line, right? Or the idea of wait until you get married, you'll be able to do all of that, right? And I know this resonates with a lot of women, right? A lot of girls. Like travel, wait until you get married, you'll be able to do that, right? Or wait until you get married, you'll be like, a lot of it is like, wait until you get married. And then when you get married, you're like, nope, now you're a mom. You're gonna sit down for a lot, like many more years, right? And in reality, we set up so many expectations for marriage that actually end up weighing us down and break some of our hopes and actual ability to reach that tranquility. Okay, so when we talk about for a marriage, like one of the misconceptions, like all you need is love in a marriage. How many of us have heard that, right? All you need is love. In reality, is it that love is something that like is a spark and it happens? Or is it something that we build over time? And the more we face each other, like Omar said, when you're living with another person, you're now learning how to actually deal with each other's, not just quirks, but also each other's pet peeves, right? We might be poking at each other. And so how do we keep love in a dynamic where we're actually possibly triggering each other? And the reality is you continue to, there's a lot to navigate in a marriage that we want to make sure we're still maintaining a sense of connection even through the difficulty. There's more on the slide.
Okay. A couple of things that I'm going to talk about from the guy's end when it comes to misconceptions of marriage is that there's often a strong emphasis on marriage is the gateway for me to finally have sexual expression. And that is a huge part of marriage, yes, which is intimacy. However, one of the most important aspects of marriage is that the intimacy and the sexual expression in a marriage is intricately tied to safety, security, and emotional resonance between you and your spouse. And so for a lot of the men, this is an unfortunate thing, but growing up in the culture that we grow up in as young guys, like I'm telling you from mine, like I grew up in a Desi household in New York. This was never talked about. This was never discussed. The topic was always haram, so it was never brought up, for any of this. And on top of that, all the role models that we had, fathers, uncles, cousins, ammos, just guys in the masjid, and all that stuff, really wouldn't give you much of an idea as to how to even navigate any of this in a marriage. So where did most of the guys my age learn about this aspect of marriage before marriage? And that was porn. And then essentially what you're doing is you're taking a lot of young men whose first exposure to love and affection and bonding is through porn, and then applying this to their marriage and their relationship. And of course, you know that the calculus, the math, doesn't add up, and it doesn't work that way. And so for a huge part of your relationship, it's founded on something that is already something that is, how do I describe it? Hypersexual and falsified. And so a big misconception about marriage for guys' end is that like this is going to be the one thing every guy looks forward to and what every guy wants out of their marriage. However, none of the actual work in that regard to reach that space with someone has been done. So we don't have conversations about sex ed in Islamic schools. We don't have conversations even amongst guys about healthy sexuality. We don't have conversations about even bonding with intimacy. How do you create a space in which the two of you feel safe, secure, and able to emotionally express in a way that you can be vulnerable with one another And then what does the emotional bond look like afterwards? Typically, what a lot of couples go through is they suffer and struggle in this regard, and this causes cracks in the marriage as they go through it, because this is not what your expectation was. You were sold on something in this country, amongst ourselves, in just like the manosphere in our culture, that didn't actually click the way it was IRL in real life. And so this is something I do want to, it's not necessarily here on the slide, but I know that from the guy's perspective, this is a huge unspoken thing.
It's not on this slide, but it comes up on other slides.
Yes.
And I just want to point out that like Omar is mentioning, and we have quite a few things that we're just touching on the surface of. In a way, an intro to many of the topics that at the FYI we've delved in very deeply. The topic of pornography addiction is actually a very real topic that our Muslim communities are struggling with. We've done research on this topic, and we've created resources to help prevent and stop the porn addictions. The reason is because it's a real problem. It's a problem for our marriages. It's a problem for our youth, and it's a problem of why people are actually not getting married, or it's something that we're taking into marriage that's creating a lot of issues. Along with, and I mention that because if you go to our website, you'll see all of our resources for free. These are resources that you can access, you can print, you can share through a link to friends, to family, to the community. And then also we do these types of workshops to expand on the topic. Like we'll talk about it for hours and hours. And today is just kind of like touching upon it. But this particular resource is a pre-marriage toolkit where the FYI has put together a lot of what we're talking about, but in depth, of how to prepare yourself, what kind of questions to look for, or like what to prepare or what to work on yourself before looking for a partner, what to look for in a partner, what to ask when you're at that stage of talking to someone, and then, how to build a successful, healthy marriage afterwards. So that's one toolkit that I encourage you guys to look into, and then we'll put up more. We also have a class for when you are talking to someone, and you can actually meet with a live counselor to help assess your compatibility.
Okay, so for self-exploration, these are for the single guys. What are you even doing in order to prepare to actually talk to someone? And so for the sisters and the brothers here, what is the individual prep before you start official marriage talks with someone? Or if you're in official marriage talks with someone, what should you be doing in those individual marriage talks? So everything you see here are like the major bullet points of what to cover for yourself. If you do not have conversations about this or explore this, I promise you it's going to come up in your relationship. And the way it comes up in your relationship doesn't tend to be conversation. It tends to be conflict in the way this comes up, because this stuff wasn't explored before coming out in a relationship. So first is going to be your personality, which is what kind of personality do you have? And how does your personality work? Do you understand your personality and how you are? This is a huge aspect for what your personality clicks with someone else's personality, and whether or not the two of you can even jive together. It doesn't necessarily mean that opposites are bad. It just means that do you have an understanding of self, who you are and how you interact with others, and what are your limitations and what are your strengths that you have in a relationship for yourself.
You also want to consider what makes you mad, what things anger you, and how do you react or respond to angering situations. When you think about what your personality is like, I mean, nowadays we have a lot of these personality tests, right? They're just patterns of behaviors that you might align with, or they align with you. But the truth is, you really want to understand yourself before being in a relationship where now you are going to be 100% triggered by that person, right? You're going to be triggered, and you're going to be triggering that person. And so you want to know what your triggers are, what really bothers me. And when I say triggers, oftentimes triggers means something might have upset me in the past, or there's unresolved issues, whether it be a broken relationship with a friend, whether it be a broken relationship with a sibling, whether it is a traumatic experience that we never processed, or oftentimes it goes back to attachment issues, which is how we've experienced our parents, whether our parents were actually emotionally there for us, whether our parents actually let us talk about things that hurt us, or they dismissed us. And these things are so important to just reflect on and understand about yourself, because this is what's going to be triggered most in a relationship. I will guarantee you, your first year to 2 years is you understanding that about yourself. Like first year to 2 years in your marriage is you getting triggered. And that's why you really want to understand this before marriage. It saves you the pain of figuring it out during marriage.
So another major thing is going to be your communication style, which is how do you communicate and how do you even talk and express yourself? Do you even express yourself? I'm going to talk to the men in the audience because I can tell you from my experience that just by virtue of the fact that we are brown dudes in America, growing up the way we've grown up, we absolutely suck at emotional expression. We don't do it. We don't know how to do it. And we have not been given male role models in our lives who know how to do it either. You tend to take after your family. So how does a young man like yourself learn how to emotionally express? You learn from your father. You learn from your uncle. You learn from your brother. You learn from your cousins. If none of the men in your family are emotionally honest and expressive, then you better believe you are not emotionally honest and expressive. Which means when you are now tying the knot with a sister, and for the first time in your life, a sister is asking you to be emotionally honest and expressive, you're just gonna have a huge question mark inside your head because you don't know how. You've never done this before. You know how most men handle their anger in your community, and that's through rage. That's through anger. That's through loud voices. That's through aggression. That's through hypermasculinity, puffing your chest out, showing strength. And this is how a guy deals with his problems. I can't bear the thought of crying in front of my wife. I can't do that. She's gonna think I'm gay, or she's gonna think like I'm effeminate. She's like, something's wrong with me. I cannot literally do that. Versus, I can tell you honestly, every single sister in the audience would feel so tender towards you if she knew you were capable of crying in front of her. However, most of us never grew up with this. We didn't grow up with this. So the important thing about communication style and family history is what is the family that you come from, and what did the family that you came from imbue in you? And this is both positive and negative. You can take good things from your culture. You can take good things from the way Dean was practiced in your home, but you're also taking trauma from your parents. You're also taking pain from your family. You're also taking a lot of negative aspects from your family. So for example, if you see your parents and your parents' relationship, a big part of that is going to be how you view a relationship. If you've ever seen your parents argue in front of each other when you were a little boy or a little girl, and you watched as your parents argued in front of you, that stuff gets burned into you. That stuff becomes a part of your DNA. And so when you get married, like Alaa was mentioning, like the triggers that Alaa is mentioning, that becomes the trigger, that comes out. When you and your spouse get into your first argument, the basis in your head for spousal argument is not you and your spouse arguing. Where your mind is when you were a kid and you watched your parents argue. And now this is what's being channeled inside of you in your relationship. If you never process this, if this is a conversation you never had, you never opened up to your spouse about this stuff, you never talked about what was conflict like in your family, because again, it's embarrassing to talk about this, or you bring like, shame upon your family to talk about this stuff, or I don't want to make my family look bad, by talking about this stuff. But then you're going to have a very hard time when you're in this conflict with your spouse, because your spouse is going to wonder, dude, why are you raging so hard at me right now? And you're thinking to yourself, well, is this not how we argue? Like, this is pretty much how it's done, right?
I also want to call out, you say argue, and in reality, when we see the flip side of if we witness abuse happening between our parents, for example, or even our siblings, and abuse meaning not just physical abuse, though that is very severe, but manipulative ways of talking to each other, gaslighting or emotional guilting, which are unfortunately some of the very common ways our cultures have, comfortably communicated. We start to normalize some of those ways and patterns of talking. And so what self-exploration means is to actually sit and explore what are these patterns and call out and label the unhealthy ones, and really be honest about, is this how I communicate, right? Are these things that I have normalized, and how do I shift that? Because we want to work on these things, the tazkiyah part, and purify these practices before, like we want to be on that journey before we get into marriage. We also want to call out other ways of communicating. For example, are you passive? Are you indirect, a people pleaser? apologetic or overlooked? Are these patterns that you have gotten used to? And we want to understand that. Or are you aggressive? Do you talk very directly? And are you very expressive or dominant, controlling? Or are you triggered by someone that is aggressive, dominant, controlling? Are you triggered by passive aggressive behavior? We want to identify it and understand it. I don't know if these are common words or if this is common language and if these are things that we understand when we hear them. But I do want to say that Omar and I do, like, we have a lot of presentations, and one of them is specifically on conflict resolution and how to really identify the ways in which we are communicating and the role we're playing in a conflict, and how to actually adapt or adopt healthier communication and healthier fair fighting. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I just want to, point out, passive aggressive behavior is indirect, sarcastic, dishonest. Are you a dishonest? Like, do you excuse some lies, for example? There's assertive and there's manipulative, which are some of the things that I pointed out as well.
So a few things to tell everybody about your individual prep for marriage, which is needs versus wants. So a need is a necessity in your marriage. It's something where you in your heart know, I need this. If I don't have this, there's no relationship. And obviously for everybody, in all the answers you guys gave, it was, someone who I can grow with Allah. Allah is blessing us with something, someone who will bring me closer to Allah and all that. That's beautiful, mashallah. You put Allah as a need in your relationship, meaning that whatever spouse you're looking for, you presume they're Muslim. Because for them to be Muslim, that's what you're looking for. It's a need. Now there's a want, which is what do you want about your spouse? And that's something more ambitious. It's more of like, like cherries on top. And what kind of cherry would you like on top, for your spouse? Here's the unfortunate thing, which is in our Muslim community, we tend to flip this, which is we tend to look more for the cherries in a relationship and less emphasis on the actual cake itself. And that means that you have flipped the wants and the needs. And this becomes unfortunate because now there's a mismatch in values when you're in a relationship. So for example, if an important thing for you is that I want my spouse to pray. Salah is very important. That's like a want I have. My spouse must pray. That's great, mashallah. It's a great expectation that you have. In marriage talks with someone, when you talk about salah, an important aspect of this is going to be, what does salah mean to you? How often do you pray? Why do you pray? What is the purpose behind your salah? What do you even get when you do salah? What do you feel when you do that? I can tell you very honestly that for a lot of Muslims, you pray just because you have to. You will have a spouse who prays, but they pray because they have to. They just need to. It's just a thing they do because everyone in their family prayed. And if they don't pray, they're in trouble. Which means you got what you needed, but this isn't necessarily what you wanted in a relationship, because now there's a value difference between your spouse in this regard. Critical conversation to have. I want a spouse who earns. Sure, you'll have a spouse with a job. What kind of job and what kind of work and what does that job mean for you and your spouse? What is important beyond there? So the conversations can't just be superficial. The conversations have to be in depth. You really have to understand why someone does something and what it means to them. So for you guys and for the sisters in the back, it's the same question, which is, what is the need, your absolute needs? If I don't have this in a relationship, there is no relationship. And then what are the wants that you have? And here's where you can be a little bit more flexible in that regard. Bro, thank you for this. And then this is what determines what your long-term goals are in your relationship. And long-term goals are sort of like, yeah, okay, kids, house, car, whatever. Those are great long-term goals, but that's not an actual long-term goal. Long-term goals in a relationship tend to be something more along the lines of when the two of us come together and two lives become one life, where are we heading towards and what do we want for one another? What is the actual goal we're setting for ourselves? So for example, if you're going to have house, for this, well, then what does that mean? Where? In what neighborhood? In what community? What kind of community matters to you? Does one of you want to be close to parents? Does one of you not want to be close to parents? How important are parents to you? How close does your house have to be to their house? How much influence and control do you want parents and family to have in your relationship with your kids or with your future? Are you someone who's career-oriented? Are you not career-oriented? Do you want to be close to a job, far from a job? Do you want your spouse to work? What kind of work? How are you guys going to juggle your work? Long-term goals are not something as simple as just kid, house, and car. It's got to be something much deeper than that, which is, do you align together with what you're searching for and what you want for yourselves? And when, like I said before, relationships change depending on where you are, premarital to marital, marital to mid-stage to late-stage marriage, your priorities will shift and change. What has to anchor you here are going to be the values. that are super, super important for this. So these are the last three things you're going to see there, which is religious, family, and financial. And the reason why these are emphasized is because Alaa and I are going to emphasize in future slides, oftentimes the biggest reason for divorce in the Muslim community is due to irreconcilable differences in these three, which is religious, family, and financial. You'd be surprised about this stuff when you're like, well, how does finances break a marriage? Talk to any of the married people here and you'll know how stressful marriage actually is as a conversation in a relationship. And if you do not talk about this, then you're setting yourself up for major conflict in a relationship once you guys are actually married. These are what determine the values that you have for yourself. Islamically, what your values are. Family, what your family values are, not just for like you, your mom, and your dad, but like together as a couple, what does creating a family mean for you guys and how do you protect that family that you have for yourself? And then financially, how do you guys share finances or not share finances or mitigate or manage your finances? There's the Islamic concept of like whatever I earn is hers and whatever she earns is hers. That's wonderful, mashallah, to do that. But that doesn't mean that there's no conversation you're having about this. It's still a critical conversation to have about this particular conversation that we have. So these are three things that before you even get married, you got to know about yourself. Where do you stand with this and what does it mean to you for these three major aspects before you introduce another person into your life?
And that's exactly what I was going to emphasize, is that you really have to know yourself to be able to actually have these kinds of conversations. And you have to know yourself honestly, because sometimes what we notice is that when we have these kinds of conversations, we're giving the ideal or the dreamy or the hopes. But in reality, this looks like a lot of the hard work that we were talking about, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to really invest some time in understanding what your values are outside of all of the noise of what society says your values should be, or of what society and communities and aunties and uncles in the communities impose on you to be. But really, you know, you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what your values are. But yes, when you go to the next slide, it's just that, like subhanAllah, when we talk about the concept of marriage, when we talk about the concept of self-development and growth, the hope is that we are on Sirat al-Mustaqim. And oftentimes we forget Allah in the process. And so to really be able to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help, support through dua, right? Be able to seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help and support through understanding the ayat of the Quran and being on this journey of self-development, it's a lot of work. And it's such valuable and important work. And it is something you have to own and have ownership of before being in a situation or, you know, before marriage. But while you're in marriage, you want to be able to maintain that, right? So yeah, self-development looks like continuing to check your nafs, continuing to check what your goals have turned to, like what your goals are now, right? Reevaluating your values. What you cared about when you were 20 is different than what you're going to care about when you're 40, right? What you care about when you're single is different than what you care about in your values and what you prioritize when you're married. And it's different than what you value and prioritize when you have children. And so you want to be a person who's constantly checking inward. And when you're married, you want to not be a stranger to your spouse, nor do you want your spouse to be a stranger to you. So you want to check in and say, well, hey, what, you know, where are you at now, right? And continue to support each other in this difficult journey of self-development and growth. Yes, the lowering your gaze, like Prophet Muhammad ﷺ gave the advice, if you can't get married young, then fast, right? Make sure that there's something about making sure that you're constantly building yourself and giving to yourself in a way that's upward and not leaning to your nafs and not shrinking to your desires or shrinking to what, you know, what shaitan loves the most is to see you a weak person, but rather a stronger person. Yes, so just remember that we do have a resource that could be beneficial for that. And then physical, social, spiritual development. Just, I want to remind us that like we are, like the human being is not just what we show. The human being is your body, your mind, your heart, your soul. We're made up of these four things, right? Qalb, al-ruh, al-nafs, al-jasad, right? We're made up of all of this. And if you ignore one part of yourself, that's one big part of yourself. And so we want to be making sure that we're eating healthy. We want to make sure that we're sleeping right. We want to make sure that we are exercising, we're getting in our physical activity. I don't know about you guys, but we didn't talk about this a lot as kids. You know, we did go outside and play, right? Which is different than kids nowadays. But to actually put in time to exercise, to make sure that we're mindful of how much oil is in our food, for example, or mindful of what we're, you know, our hours of sleep. You know, as kids, we always fought sleep, but now as adults, we only want sleep. In reality, we need to be in such a balance where we have a healthy relationship with our bodies. We have a healthy relationship. We know what our thoughts are like, right? Sometimes we have such negative thoughts that they really impact what we're feeling for the entire day or our mood for the entire week. I'm talking about self-development, but just imagine this happening inside of me and how it's going to just kind of impact the person next to me and the person in my environment and space. And then if we have children, how it's going to impact our children if I'm so stressed and sleepless, right? We have to invest in our self-care and our needs. It is a part of our deen, and it's how Prophet Muhammad SAW modeled his life. He exemplified a fit person who didn't eat too much, didn't eat, you know, just didn't eat bad food, right? Even meat was a luxury, right? Like the way Prophet Muhammad SAW, his behaviors reached us as the balance, like this is what we want to be able to adhere to in our own lives. And spiritual development. Like if it means taking a class on Deen just to make sure that we're in touch with our spiritual needs, right? And then making that so normal before you get married so that when you're married, the two of you are taking a class together, right? Or if your goal is to memorize Quran, articulate that and share that with your spouse or share that with your premarital, like before marriage, so that this could be something that doesn't get lost when you get married. Because trust me, a lot of our dreams and hopes, they do get lost when now we have to merge the two of us, right? So that's a part of ensuring that your priorities remain priorities and ensuring that you are on this journey. And inshallah, when you're married, and if you are currently married, when you have children, your journey just continues going upward and it doesn't get stagnant or go backward.
All right, so I'm going to make a couple of quick. These next two slides are going to be very quick, but I'm just going to make a couple of comments on Muslim dating apps. I don't know if this is like the primary mode that you guys are using to find folks. If you're on like Muzmatch, or if you're on Minder, if you're on like In Pairs, or whatever, or drsidishta.com if you want to look for doctors online, or whatever. But like whatever dating app you're using, there are going to be a couple of important topics to touch upon for this, which is first and foremost, we start first with niyyah. Which is all actions are guided by intention, which is when you download a Muslim dating app and you're using a dating app to find your spouse, what are you exactly doing? What is the intention behind this? Super, super important. Are you actually seeking a relationship? Is this what you're looking to do? Or are you looking for an ego boost? Or are you looking for entertainment? Most guys know a guy that have all three reasons, or one reason depending, or they flip-flop their reason depending on who they come across or what they come across when they're on a dating app. So your niyyah is very important. If you're going to use a dating app for the sake of just seeing what's out there, but the intention is not for actual relationship seeking, then it's the equivalent of like a meat market, which is you're kind of just looking around, looking to see what's out there and just peeping what's in your community and what kind of girls you can find, you know, for yourself. What are you really gaining from this? What is your actual barakah from this process? You're really not going to have any, you know, for this. Then it's just entertainment for you. Next is the instant social gratification, which is the way this process was for boomers is very different than the process is for millennials. Because for us, like for Alaa and I growing up, this process was essentially going into communities, going to masjid events, going to halakas, going to MSA, going to places and actually like seeing each other and having families connect. This is like the process by which we go through it. Now it's completely different. I don't have to leave my room in order to find someone. I have hundreds of people right here on my phone, and with just a right swipe, I'm already, boom, in a conversation, starting a conversation with someone and connecting with somebody without ever having even laid human contact with anyone. It's a very different world that we're in. And for a lot of dating apps, there's an instant social gratification with the fact that you've matched with someone and now you're talking to someone. It's a high you get off of it, a dopamine hit, that someone else is engaging with me. We're having an actual conversation. Maybe it's a bot or it's an AI. I don't even know who you're talking to, but the point of the matter is that you feel good doing it. And so you keep doing it, not for the sake of actual conversation building and relationship building, but for the sake of gratification. Self-worth is important because a lot of young folks will base their self-worth based on the dating profile that they have and how many matches that they get on their dating profile, and then vice versa. If you don't get a lot of matches, then you have a negative self-worth. You think that I'm suck or I'm ugly or I'm disgusting or my job isn't good enough or I'm not good enough or there's something bad with the profile itself. No one loves me, no one cares for me, I'll never get married. So like you get one or the other, for this. Some of the important psychological concepts behind Muslim dating apps is first is positive acceptance, which is if you get a lot of matches and if you talk to a lot of people on these apps, naturally you're going to use the apps more and you're going to engage more with it. That's sort of positive reinforcement. And this is a form of acceptance for that. Does it actually mean that you're having healthy conversations or building healthy experience? Probably not. But just because you feel good doing it, you're going to keep doing it. How does a dating app get people to sign up to begin with? By giving you more matches. So the only way for a dating app as a business model to work is to make the business model very attractive to you. If every single person went on a dating app and didn't match at all, no Muslim would use a dating app. But the reason why they're so successful is because everybody could get a match and everybody can chat someone up just like that. So that's the positive aspect of it. The negative aspect of this is rejection, which is just like in any conversation, if you get rejected on a dating app or you have a string of rejections on a dating app, this is highly psychologically damaging to both men and women in that you tend to have, like I said, low self-esteem. You can fall into a depression, you fall into negative self-worth, you fall into negative self-esteem, and then you have an emotional baggage of rejection you carry into the next conversation. So when you start your next conversation with a guy and you're noticing the guy's not messaging back, the instant that you don't get a message and there's no feedback and there's ghosting, rather than taking a logical step back and thinking to myself, okay, this guy is probably not responding because he's probably just occupied or not interested, or maybe he's a bot or whatever, it doesn't matter. The thought process you actually have is, this is just like every other experience I've had. No one talks to me, no one engages with me, no one loves me, no one cares for me, I'm never gonna get married, I'm hideous, I'm ugly, I'm disgusting, I'm a terrible person. You now start attacking yourself through this. And then everything is reinforced through this dating app. So dating apps are something where what I'm gonna explain to everybody is if you are lonely and you are insecure, this is not a healthy way to engage. It's really not. Like Alaa and I keep mentioning, if you have a lot of mental illness, if you have depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, low self-worth, and you're entering into a conversation through a dating app or in-person IRL, whatever it may be, you are carrying this mental baggage with you into the relationship. And it's unfair to the other person that you didn't do the self-work to heal through this process. And then vice versa for the other person that you're talking to. If you go on a Muslim dating app and you have choice overload, where you're messaging 15 girls simultaneously at the same time to see which of the 15 girls is the most responsive, and you're having Olympics on your phone to see who can outperform the other, and that's the person that you marry, this is what we consider a choice overload. This was never at all how marriage talks were supposed to be done, where you have multiple people on a phone out competing to get your nikah contract spot, for this. It's a deeply unhealthy way to look through this. And that means that the bond that you're forming with someone is not an actual authentic bond. It's an inauthentic digital bond. That, of course, like Alaa and I mentioned, once you're in person and finally building a relationship together, you'll realize that this is nothing like sending GIFs and sending memes online to one another virtually.
And the person ends up being very different than
and the person's very
profile.
different than who you've been. Because remember, like I said before, it's all performance online. I'm going to act the way you want me to act when I'm anonymous and when I have a phone screen in front of me. Versus in real life, IRL, you have to actually have Riz, which is an unfortunate thing for a lot of people, which is you never learned how to build this. You have no clue how to do this.
And honestly, sometimes we want to see ourselves in the best light.
Mm-hmm.
And so a profile might look good, not because the person is a liar, but a person, including ourselves, we might put our best selves forward. I do want to point out, while Omar is giving all the warnings about using these apps, like use them responsibly, is there's a reason these apps came about, right?
Mhm.
Like we actually do have a really difficult time in our communities finding partners and getting married. And it is not a local problem to one masjid or one community. This is something that our Muslim communities are struggling with. And in fact, non-Muslim populations are having very similar struggles, if not having had those struggles long before us.
Mhm.
I could just rewind a little bit. Omar and I both met at a conference, and I will still continue in our 30s. We were both 30. And like I would still continue to encourage people. Like as communities, we're failing. We're failing our communities in actually creating spaces for any parent who's in this room, for any community organizer, or for community members. Let's tell our board members, like let's tell our communities, we want to have more events where actually we can come together and like do have Islamically, have the right Islamic boundaries in place, but also let's socialize so that getting married is easier, right? Meeting people in the masjid space where it is halal, where it is something where we can have other people vouch for the person. Like we need more of that in our communities. And so it is a failing on our community's parts. But I wouldn't say give up on being a part of the community. I would say let's like um, bring to our community what it really needs, right? And this is something to say.
Absolutely.
To
I
the
think now,
organizers.
Alaa, most people are using Yemeni coffee shops as like their
That's true.
like
Which
to meet up. Which I'm not gonna knock it. It's totally cool.
good
If you want to meet up
coffee,
someone
good
at Yemeni
company.
coffee, I mean, Yemeni coffee shops have become like the new hangout spot for everybody, which is great. That's fine, mashallah. The only thing I would caution, like I said about dating apps, is I'm not knocking it. I'm not trying to be a boomer and say dating apps bad. All I'm saying is use responsibly. Make sure that you are using this with intentionality, and make sure that there's an actual niyyah behind what you're doing. Be ethical in your use of dating apps.
And also be mindful of how it's impacting you. I'll have a lot of clients that'll come to me talking about how they suck as a human being, or they're just not good looking enough, or they just their value and worth is really attached to the responses they've received on these apps. And so I just want to put it out there that hey, while we have these apps as an option, be mindful of how it might be affecting you. And if this is not how you're going to get married, then drop it, right? Not that I know very much about In Pairs, but I do know that In Pairs is another program that's coming out, and they are using masjid spaces in a way where like it's a community that knows a person, not just a random person meeting from two different states. So In Pairs is something that I'm personally going to put a plug for, but not professionally.
Alrighty, so premarital talks. So
Yes, let's gauge the audience. I want to just put this out there. We have a lot more content and a lot more slides,
probably
but we
speed up
want to,
and
yeah, we're going to speed it up, but we also want to gauge you guys and see how you're feeling, but also what you think about compatibility. And we'll probably go for another 10 minutes and then pause for some Q&A, inshallah.
okay. So you can scan if you guys haven't scanned already. What aspects of compatibility are the most important in a relationship? And you have 6 options here. And then your job, everybody, is going to be to rank them. Rank number 1 is the most important. Number 6 is the least important. What is important to you?
What do you think is important to others as well?
Put it on your phone. Okay, not bad. I'm going to give it like another minute. Just get your rankings in, everybody. So far, it's looking like everybody's almost in agreement on this. Well, it looks like it. So what I'm seeing here is Islamic practice is number 1. as the most important aspect of a relationship. After that is good communication. And then after good communication is like physical attractiveness. And I really need to give a shout out to everybody because, mashallah, you all put physical attractiveness above emotional vulnerability, which is an interesting thing. And you put it above family acceptance, too, on top of that, which is as long as a person is really hot, it doesn't matter if their family doesn't accept them. It doesn't matter if they're emotionally stunted, just as long as they look good. And are, mashallah, like very Muslimish, then we're golden. And then dead last is sexual history, for this. And this is the ranking that I'm seeing currently right now from everyone in the room. So it's good, mashallah, beautiful that Islamic practice is the most important aspect of compatibility, which means in your marriage talks, when you actually talk to someone, this has to be something you need to talk about. And it can't just be, are you a good Muslim? Yes, okay, great. Here's the nikah contract. There needs to be a much more deeper conversation about this, like Alaa mentioned before, which is how do you actually develop yourself Islamically? What does it even mean to you to be a good Muslim for that? How did you become a good Muslim? What does being a good Muslim entail for your activity? What does being a good Muslim entail for sadaqah? What does being a good Muslim entail for good words and good work, for this stuff? What happens when your Islam is being challenged by someone or something? What happens if someone questions your deen? How do you respond and how do you act? What if I question your deen in the midst of our marriage? What do you do? Are you going to yell at me? Are you going to shout at me? Are you going to put me down? Are you going to tell me, astaghfirullah, how dare you? May Allah punish you for doing this kind of thing. How dare you question me on this stuff? Yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. Like, how do you react and how do you respond, with your deen? That's where communication comes up, which is how do you communicate? Which way in which you communicate? Like I mentioned before, what happens when communication breaks down? How do you handle communication breakdown? Are you passive aggressive? Are you normal aggressive? Are you hyper aggressive? Are you completely withdrawn? Do you shut down when communication gets rough or gets difficult? Do you have a go-to? So if we argue, you're going to go to your mom and talk to your mom, which means we can't even have a healthy marriage because your mom is the third spouse. So like there's a problem that we see here with communication. How do we have honest communication with each other? Emotional vulnerability, excellent that you guys have ranked that higher, for this, which is how honest are you emotionally and how do you express emotionality to yourself. Family acceptance is pretty big. Like Alaa and I mentioned, one of the biggest reasons for divorce are in-law dynamics.
In the Muslim community.
In the Muslim community in particular, it's in-law. You'd be surprised, it's in-laws.
Research shows that.
Which is what impact do your parents have on the relationship? What impact do the spouse's parents have on the relationship? And then these are where the concept of boundaries come in. What boundaries have you set to guard and protect the relationship and to guard and protect the families, both families in this case? Sometimes you can have a family that's way too over-involved and that causes strain on a relationship. Or you can have a family that's way too hands-off and doesn't even care or invests, and that also breaks the relationship, for this. So family is a huge part of it. And then the final one is probably the most difficult one to talk about, and that's the one that you guys have all shied away from, which is sexuality, which is how do you even have a conversation about sex and sexuality, sexual expression, and sexual history with one another. Super, super, super important, critical conversation to have. If you do not have it, then it's important to at least have a mediator or someone else be able to have this conversation to help guide you through it, which is where counseling comes in. Alaa and I are going to have a resource on this. We're going to talk about this. But if you find these conversations difficult, that's where premarital counseling is a necessity for this.
And actually, while we're here, I want to answer one of the questions. One of the questions was, how do you ask the hard questions without killing the conversation? And I think that's so valuable because as Omar is pointing to a lot of these values that we've all kind of prioritized of, what, to ask and what to address. The real question is, if you are not having these important conversations or asking these important questions, and you're just having conversations for the sake of conversations, you want to ask yourself, like, where is this taking us, right? If asking these important conversations is killing the conversation, again, you just want to ask the purpose of the conversation. Yeah. The second thing is sometimes use the resources. I'll tell you what I did. I sent Ahmad a book and I said, read this. I'm going to read it on my end and then we're going to come together and we're going to like book club it, right? I asked him a set of questions, and I also sent him a set of questions in our pre-marriage talks. And I said, you pick one, I pick one. You pick one, I pick one. And maybe every day we'll do a couple, right? But the idea is if our conversations aren't serious and if serious questions are going to kill it, then I think we need to step back and have that conversation of where is this relationship, where is it currently, and where is it headed, right? If we're having conversations, we're setting ourselves up for emotional investment early, like early emotional investment, and that hurts us actually from receiving the hard answers that we like. When someone says something like, "Oh yeah, I watched my parents get abused, and so hitting each other was so normal in our household," and you're like, "Yeah, but you're so cute, haha," right? Like you actually bypass really important red flags because we're emotionally invested, because we were having so much fun in these conversations, right? And that happens, and actually that has happened so much, and it becomes the conversation in my premarital or my marriage sessions when I have couples coming in like upset with each other, and now we're trying to correct or do damage control after the fact. But I told you this before we got married, right? Yeah, but I loved you enough to not care back then. But now when it's important, I don't know how to undo the damage. Yeah, so Omar, do you want to add anything about that? Wait, one more thing.
Oh, sure. Yeah, go for it.
I said use resources. Premarital counseling is a real important resource, and we'll have a slide that kind of talks about it. But premarital counseling is when two people are in talks and they're serious about it, and before they decide to get engaged, or even if they are engaged, you can meet with a counselor who's going to specifically help you by giving you an assessment. Each one of you guys is going to do an assessment, and we're going to score these assessments separately. And then the premarital counsel will say, well, here, look, these are some of the things that you scored high on your values. These are some of the expectations you have. Let's talk about the differences, and let's come to a common understanding together here and now, right? A premarital counselor will actually point out the different communication styles that she sees or he sees and notices happen between the two people. And then a premarital counselor can also bring up the difficult conversations, bring up like intimacy, sex, the things that we might shy away from talking about in a very focused manner so that you can have these important conversations. And in premarital counseling, I don't know if every premarital counselor does it, but it's a structured 6 sessions that you meet with a therapist and you reach, an end where you both know each other and you know yourselves and you know the process of marriage a little bit more. So I would say use the resources to help with having some of these difficult conversations.
Yes. Don't ignore the red flags. I know I was mentioning this before. We're just going to list a few of them here, but these are usually huge no-nos. If you see a red flag, major problem in the relationship. Which I would say is if any of these come up in premarital counseling, do not sign the nikah contract and do not get married until this is squared away, until an honest conversation is had here about this. And if you've had an honest conversation and you're still moving forward with a nikah with this person, then I hope, inshallah, the two of you come to a mutual understanding about this. That's what I would say. But if you have major trust issues, if you have emotional withdrawal, emotional neglect, insecurities, abuse, power and control issues, or power and control in a relationship dynamic, unrealistic expectations, or firmness, I will not move or shake on these expectations. This is what marriage will be. And you either agree or hit the road for this. Inappropriate hypersexuality, where if in the midst of marriage talks, someone's telling you send nudes, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, I mean, all right, I guess if we're going to do this, then all right, then maybe this wasn't for a relationship. No, this is actual coercion. It's sexual coercion in relationships. And for a lot of times, a lot of young guys and young girls will get wrapped up in stuff like this and be so far deep in a relationship that the only way to move forward is to keep going and to not break, because a threat has been made that I'll either reveal this, or I'll tell your parents, or I'll just tell everybody what you're like in private for this, or I'll screenshot and I'll send it to other people. And so now the relationship has taken on a very different meaning for you. You're not actually getting married for the sake of marriage. You're getting married because it's abuse. So in these cases, if any red line for you is crossed, the recommendation Alaa and I have is there needs to be a serious reconsideration for what you're doing here and what your safety is for that. Make
So important to identify if you ever feel pressured to do anything outside of your comfort, just sit with it. Try to explore it, try to understand it. And that goes for everything, right? Omar pointing out these red flags. Sometimes we think we're marrying someone with the hopes of they're going to change or they're going to get better, right? marrying potential,
Yeah.
or I can fix him. No, you are not your spouse's therapist. We're both in the mental health field, and no, we're not psychoanalyzing each other the whole time. Neither are we
Hope not.
therapists. I do, I read your mind, but that's a different story. But in reality, like you are, so anything you see on this slide right here, if it is a problem before marriage, know that it will be amplified after marriage.
Yeah.
Know that it will be times 10 or times 20 after marriage. If it is not resolved, if it is not processed, and if there is anything around the lines of abuse or trauma in someone's history, or trust issues that are stemming from a traumatic experience, or whether it's a lightly traumatic experience like a small T or a big T, if those things are not processed before marriage, they will seep into and affect marriage. They will seep into and affect your relationship at so many different stages. So the idea is pay attention to the red flags. Do not move on without addressing them, processing them, exploring them, and be confident and comfortable enough to set your boundaries. Be confident and comfortable enough to say no and let go if those things are not addressed.
So what you guys see up on the screen is the Prepare to Pair course. This is a a Muslim premarital course that is online through the Family Youth Institute. So if you guys want to scan, this is something that I highly, highly recommend, which is before you sign a nikah contract, make sure you guys do premarital counseling. This should be like an essential to you.
This course is a self-paced course. It is like 7 different modules that you individually are like, hopefully you do it by yourself. And honestly, me and Omar did this after we got married too. So like if after like you're a couple years into marriage still, or sometime after marriage as well, these modules are filled with different, like the types of conversations you want to be having, the types of self-development you want to have as well, about compatibility, about family, about relationship roles, what you expect yourself to do, what you expect from your husband or your wife, your spouse. Again, the conversation of sex and intimacy. So you're not the one that has to come up with the questions, but they're there. About communication, understanding your own and understanding what is healthy. So yeah, these 6 or 7 courses you take on your own, and then at the end of the 7 courses, you meet with a therapist. So it's a very, very helpful resource. There's also an assessment.
Yes.
The FYI, if you want to go back to that slide real quick, has resources for parents if parents are trying to help their children get married. That also has the Before You Say I Do, so the premarital resource for before you get married, what should you work on yourself. And then the second Before You Say I Do is before you get married, what should you ask the other person? And then the Prepare to Pair course that we just described.
So here we go. This gives a nice little summary of everything. You'll see the Before You Say I Do resource. You'll see the Marriage Prep Toolkit, and you'll see Prepare to Pair for this. So I would strongly, strongly recommend this. Usually what I tell shuyukh is that you should not officiate a nikah until you've asked the couple, did you guys do marriage counseling? If a sheikh is willing to do a nikah ceremony for you and family is not involved and the sheikh doesn't even ask you about this stuff and the sheikh doesn't even ask about a court marriage, for that, I mean, that's got more that's got more red flags than like a Chinese parade. You really should not at all engage in any of this stuff. You are setting yourself up for something highly abusive in this case. So strongly, strongly recommend against that sort of thing. The more legitimate a process is, the more khair and barakah and protection there is in that process for yourself. So if you're ever unsure or have a question mark or don't know how to navigate it, you solo can go through the first 2 resources. And then as a young couple pre-nikah, you should go through the third. And even if you've done your nikah and you guys haven't done the walima yet, or you've done the walima, you're in the very, very early stages of your relationship, you can still do Prepare to Pair. It's still an excellent resource for creating a stronger communication style between you and your spouse. Okay, are we all done? I think we're wrapped up. From here, I think Alaa has...
So when you're married, and this right here is just a brief slide for, this is a brief, I'd probably give an introduction to it, but this entire slide is like a whole 8-hour workshop in itself. But just to be able to build skills and the knowledge for how to maintain a healthy, sound relationship. And this is called the Sound Relationship House. Gottman Institute is very creditable when it comes to marriage resources. But marriage takes intentional work and effort. And you have to, in order to build upward, you have to do this work and just steadily build upward. Every small act of care and connection lays another brick to build this, like a brick in the foundation, and then it helps you climb upward toward trust, meaning, and lasting love. Truly, truly, truly worth it, worth the work. When you look at the bottom, it's the love maps, building a love map, and I'll just briefly describe that this is a way to stay aware of your partner's inner world. And then share fondness and admiration is that second one, where you actually express appreciation, understand what your partner cares about, what your spouse cares about, and make emotional deposits. So you're actually building a space of affection with each other through, I don't know if you guys are familiar with love languages, but really understanding what the person, how the person receives expressions of love and being intentional in making those expressions. Turn toward instead of away is so important. Respond positively to each other's bids of emotional connection. Whereas like if someone says, "Oh, you're so cute today," and then you respond, "What do you want?" Right? Like that's like a push away versus like turning inward and saying, like, "You too, I love your blouse," right? Like whatever compliment you can give back and forth. But these are like tools for actually maintaining a daily connection with your partner and building in this relationship. Maintaining a positive perspective. There's an ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about some yakfurna al-ashir, like they cover the good with one bad thing. But the idea is like to really continue maintaining a positive perspective of the other person. Omar has an issue of coming late sometimes.
What the hell? Why are you calling
And
me
it
out like
bothers me so much.
Oh, I was only 5 minutes late today. Not that bad.
But, I could literally be at the door so upset. Like, I knew it. He's probably talking to another person on the phone for longer and he could have said bye faster. And I probably, that was the beginning of our marriage, like the first year of stress and pain. But really building in positive perspective. Like, he's so kind. He does not know how to end a conversation too quickly. And I want to be patient and generous and gentle toward that. Like, this is something that can actually like maintain a sense of affection between us. But building that positive perspective for one another and a positive outlook, allowing the friendship to grow naturally is so worth it because it saves you from the pain. And also the other person knows they're safe, right? And ultimately, this is what the house is for. You want tranquility, right? A home of sakina. And again, it's the work that comes when it is a little more challenging and effortful to make it happen. Learn to manage conflict. So you want to be able to, something that we really, really emphasize in marriages is that you want to be open to influence and you want to be able to feel trust in your spouse's influence, right? If a person is rigid, then it closes the doors to actual connection. And, this is where clashes come through. You want to be able to discuss problems. You want to be able to self-soothe. This was actually something we would have talked about in the next slide, but I think we'll kind of go over really quickly. Being emotionally regulated is so important because if you yourself can't calm yourself down, and you come into a conflict unable to calm yourself down or unable to navigate your own emotions, then this is where the clash of emotions take place, right? You want to be able to be emotionally regulated and regulate yourself, which means find ways to soothe yourself out of anger or frustration or sadness so that when you come to your partner, you're not bringing all of that, but you're able to actually address the issues that might have been causing you to feel that way. Honor each other's life and dreams. So you want to be able to actually support and encourage each other on each other's goals. Not be a negative voice that holds each other down or lowers or shrinks somebody's self-esteem and ability to actually make their dreams come true. Ultimately, and create shared meaning. Ultimately, you want to be a safe space where you have a shared sense of purpose and you guys can build a legacy together and live out your values in your relationship. trust and commitment on the side are the pillars. Again, this is like a whole workshop that I would encourage, probably bringing us back for or having, giving attention to, but just briefly talked about that.
Okay, so we'll wrap up here. There's a few more slides, but I don't think we really have time
Yeah, let's pass
for all that. So I'm going to ship us over to the QA. Here we go. So the way the QA works, everybody, is you can all submit questions, and then on the QA, you'll notice that you can give a thumbs up to a question. You can click the thumbs up if you like that, and that bumps the question all the way up to the top and prioritizes that question. So there's a ton that are coming in, but if you like what you're seeing, if it's a particular question you want Alaa and I to focus on first, you're probably not going to get to all of these. We'll see how many we can do before we wrap up. You can give a thumbs up and upvote it to the top for that. Okay. So let me scroll up, and we'll start with the first one. The one that I see here that has the most amount of upvotes is, how does one know that they are quote unquote ready? Tell you the truth, I mean, this is a highly complicated. I can't give you one answer for this that like you're ready. The truth is that you're never actually ready. Even when you sign a nikah contract, you're still not ready. When you have your first kid and you're in the delivery room, you're not ready. When your kid gets ready and packs their suitcase and is off to college for the first day, you're not ready. When your kid is signing their own nikah contract and they're getting married, you're not ready. And when you have your cane and you're about to go for your first appointment because the doctor is telling you your body's breaking down and your grandkids only have a limited amount of time for you, you're not ready. And then finally, when you breathe your last breath and Malak al-Maut comes to you to take your soul, you're still not ready. You're never ready at all at any point. So how does one know that they are ready? Truthfully, honestly speaking, it's like Alaa said, there's got to be tarbiyah and taskiyah. You have to be in a state of, I'm working on myself. I'm still a work in progress. But I've got the right attitude that I'm going to keep working on the aspects of me that I know I'm weak in and can affect another person. That's how you know you're ready. You're actually in a mature place for yourself. Like Alaa said, the more rigid you are about yourself, the more you are ignorant about who you are and what you are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your communication style is, what your family background is, what your trauma is, what your mental health is like. If you know nothing about this, you are not ready. Definitely not. Like, you're super not ready at all for any of this stuff. You are slightly more ready when you've prepared, for this stuff. So you've gone through premarital counseling, when you've gone through individual counseling, when you've actually worked on the tarbiyah and taskiyah. What that means is the self-development of your weaknesses and your insecurities. You are more ready for this. I hope that helps to answer that question. I mean, I can't give you like a, hey, you're ready. Like, you're really not. It's just you.
Just knowing that you're on the journey,
Yeah.
right? And making sure that you are, you're on the journey and it's building readiness,
Yeah.
which is why we have these resources in the first place.
Is there an aha moment when you realize that he/she is the one? Is there an aha moment?
I love this question.
Did you have that?
No.
Wow. Oh.
Well,
Shoot.
in Islam, do we look for aha moments? When you think about all of the ways that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encourages us, the small deeds consistent, and no matter how small they are and consistent, is better than the big deed that you do once and sporadically. Right? We're not looking for the big bang, right? And even if I can merge it with one of the other questions, when you stop making dua to marry someone, like, we pray istikhara. Like, we've been granted this gift of a prayer that says, Allah, I'm going to put my faith in you. This is something I like. This is something I'm leaning toward. If it's good for me, please bring it my way. And if it's bad for me, just send it away so I don't have to be attached to it. Mm-hmm. Our prayer is one that allows us to just kind of put our tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, put our lean inward and recline inward to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wisdom, right? And so when you think about it in that regard, right? Like, I am not praying, I want to marry that person, I want to marry that person, I want to marry that person, because asa an takrahu shay'an wa huwa khayrun lakum. You might like something, you might think it's good for you, you might really, really want it and build an attachment to it, and that might actually be what's bad for you. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows better. But we're neither looking for an aha moment, like this is the one, nor are we looking for just this one, right? We're looking to give it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and like find the ease in this coming our way. I don't know, is there any more you want to add to
Yeah,
that?
like a lot of people think that like I'm gonna make dua for istikhara, and ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if like this girl is right for me, like make it work. And you figure the very next day, like her dad will DM you and be like, "Yo, come to the house, we're ready." And you're like, "Yeah, all right, that's istikhara, bro." It doesn't work that way. Or like, if a sister is like making dua, ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this guy is like super weird, and I don't know, some parts of my like, some parts I don't, but ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, take care of this for me. And then the very next morning, he drives off a cliff and dies. And she's like, wow, okay, I guess istikhara works. Like, Allah gave me an answer. It's not like that. Like, people think that there's an aha moment that it clicks. It really doesn't. It's a brick by brick. You are building a foundation for something, and it's a painstaking process. It's actually time and effort. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes this exceedingly difficult for you, where every single moment is difficult, it's like very like drawn out, you feel exhausted, you feel burdened, you feel like it's taking you away from your deen and it's taking you away from yourself, your istikhara has been answered. Allah has answered it for you. It's kind of clear. Versus when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitates it for you, everything is silky smooth, it's like butter, it's all falling into place, everything feels right, it's working right. You actually feel closer to Him and you feel closer to your deen through this process. Your istikhara is answered. It's not an aha moment. It's a slow build, for this stuff. People think it's like a romantic comedy where like you're gonna reach for like a tasbih, he's gonna reach for it too, and your hands touch, and you're like, oh my God, aha, like this is it. We're gonna marry now. It's a wrap. We did a TikTok together. Khalas, it's done. Like life is gonna be significant.
Honestly, sometimes we confuse like aha almost sounds like also like a spark, right? Like, and it could be lust, it could be a brief moment of attraction, it could be a passing, like it really could be something. The thing is, subhanAllah, like everything that Omar was describing right now of being able to kind of witness when something is so difficult, like maybe there's a reason it's difficult, or when something is so easy, like maybe, oh wow, let me keep going with this, right? It's a good flow. If we actually can't read the signs because we're so distant from ourselves, then that's how we know we're not ready, right? But like we keep missing a lot of Allah's signs if you think about it in our regular day to day, right? And the way that Ghazali talks about to know oneself, like to know Allah, you must know yourself. Or like just really you're building readiness so that you can actually be able to read Allah's subhanahu wa ta'ala signs, to know when something is not right for you and when something actually does feel right for you.
Yes.
We have a couple more minutes and I want to make sure
we address that. What if I'm personally ready for marriage but financially not? Bro, in this economy, fam, I don't even like I don't think anyone's financially ready. In this economy, may Allah increase us on the risk. But this is a very serious question because the answer to this question is socioeconomic. Like I don't have a solution, for this question. What I would tell you is that if you're personally ready for marriage but financially not, you have to have a conversation with your parents and your family about this. You have to have a conversation about it. Unless you're going to magically like come up with a bank loan out of nowhere and like finance it yourself, which I don't recommend. That's a critical conversation to have. In fact, it's a critical conversation with your intended as well. She's got to know too, and he's got to know also that this is what you're dealing with. When Alaa and I were in marriage talks, I was pretty clear with Alaa that like you think you're marrying a doctor and you're gonna like have me drive a Bugatti up to the house or whatever. Like surprise, surprise, I'm driving a Honda. Like I'm broke and I am 6 figures in debt. I'm $250,000 in debt, and we're marrying. Like you are not going to live the lifestyle you think you are when you're with me. Like I hope you enjoy ramen noodles. But like this is at least having an honest conversation. I am not lying or manipulating to appear a certain way to Alaa about my finances. I was very crystal clear about the finances. And like Alaa and I came to a mutual understanding that like, okay, we have to live a certain way. If we choose to do this, we have to live a certain way together for this. And if Alaa was the kind of girl who was like, you know what, Omar, I'm sorry, but like there's a certain standard that I have and I can't achieve that with you, then that's a very, very respectable answer. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think it's important to not be like, well, she's a gold digger, that's why she's not with me. It's like, well, no, she's someone who her parents and her family value the way she lives her life, and you cannot give that. So one of two things has to happen. Either a relationship is untenable and you can't move forward with the relationship, or You need to step up and find a way to either get yourself a different career path, or get yourself to a master's program, or get yourself into like a job placement program, or have your family step up, for this stuff. All this requires an intense conversation on your end for this. It's critical, it's important. This is not something where I actually recommend. I know a lot of people will say, yalla, you're of marriageable age, just go for it and get married, and all that. And they'll say that marriage is best for you when you're very young, even if you're financially unstable. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide you with the rizq. Yes, we believe in that. However, you have to have a proper understanding of what you're getting into. Because I guarantee you, and Allah and I can speak statistically, that one of the major reasons for divorce is finances. So you cannot just walk into a relationship with Allah will give us rizq. Like, it doesn't work that way. You've got to have a sound plan. You got to tie your camel, then place your faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't just come to a girl and be like, yo, I got a camel, I swear, I promise, it's somewhere. We'll find it. It's not. You're coming with her with an inadequate approach to that. So I hope that helps, inshallah, for the financial question.
I want to point out time. It's 10 o'clock.
Oh, sorry.
And that's the time that we're
What
allowed
if my
to
wife
do.
does not want to eat? Really? I don't know, bro. Are you marrying a mermaid, or you're like...
What we can do is we actually have access to these questions, and you have access to the answers. So what we could do is we can continue answering the questions. Like we can type back a response. If you have a question that hasn't been answered, please check back in tonight or tomorrow, and we will just save the link on your phone, and we will answer it unless we're granted a few extra minutes and you guys have a pressing question.
Some really good questions here. I mean, not about the fish one, but like some really good questions here that we have. So I guess Ahmed, if we're set, I don't know, the masjid, we gotta end at 10. We gotta like cut. Okay, I was gonna go till Fajr.
See how I honor time? Just kidding.
If you go till Fajr, does that work? Okay, yalla. All right.
But there's a live question, I think. If we could.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you very much for the lecture that a lot of folks here all of the feedback. Just as give me a chance to put a disclaimer in front of you to just in case my wife speaks. I don't want her to think that I have any ideas, but all the thing is that for me, I've been married for 33 years.
MashaAllah, man.
But
MashaAllah.
the thing is, a lot I think we still have to learn. And it's hard work. And for us to think that you just slip into this and think that you made it. I mean, it's hard work every day. And one of the things that keeps me grounded is that we have metrics. In that area, we put first.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel that, like, if you read it, like, frontward or backward, you'll see that the first thing that goes is thankfulness. The next is affection, then love. And then after that, was the void of having active problem solving. Active thinking first. And then active problem solving. Everything.
It's dead. The relationship's dead.
So, my advice is to make sure that you keep that metric.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like what you put out there as far as priority, in terms of choice, how the prophet laid it out, when it comes to that, all the things that were put there, most of the people have gotten it right. Yeah. And so the idea is, and I just wanted to make sure that I put out this thought, is that the theory is there, it's the practice that's there.
Mm-hmm.
And once we get a handle on the theory, we need to respect it, and at the same time, we need to learn our nature. That's the only way to find out eventually where the right path.
Jazakallah, man. Thank you.
Jazakallah.
Yeah, may Allah also increase you both and elevate you both, and like increase the bond that you have with one another.
Yeah.
for that. I really appreciate this. I mean, look, for us, we just had our 6th anniversary about 2 months ago, like a month and a half ago, thereabout. So like to hear from you, I mean, shoot, man, you got like multiples ahead of us, mashallah. So it's still.
But can I
Still.
tell you what it means to hear from people at different stages of marriage? We don't do this enough as a
Yeah,
community.
that's
Like
true.
a lot of our young people are going into marriage, or a lot of folks are going into marriage with delusions about a fairy tale, truly, because we actually as a community are not honest about our struggles. We are still stigmatizing people who are getting divorced when this is such a natural and halal thing.
Mhm.
We're still stigmatizing like people who don't have kids, right? Or putting our pressures and our expectations. As a community, we actually don't get to talk about the difficulties and the beauty together, side by side, in order to really help and lift each other. I think marriages should have mentorship. I think we should have conversations regularly where we have people of all different ages and stages of marriage experiences. And that's just one topic, right? We have so many different areas in our faith. Parenting, right? Like we can't go into parenting not knowing what you're doing. That's why a lot of us came out early struggling, right? But so I really, really am so grateful that you shared what you shared. And I know, brother, you had your hand up as well. I think being able to hear from you guys it's nice that we have the anonymous questions, but if anybody wants to share, that's priority. Just
I promise we'll get to the fish question, guys. We'll answer it. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Oh my God, Habib, why aren't you up here? You should be doing that. Yeah, it's true.
And also, religion into the life. Like, people share like how they and so I call the way because sometimes they give some tips, they question in the sense because sometimes it's mistakes, if they really could give, well, I think that's it. In terms of how can you create some social life, some social family better, and doing things together. Most of you are right here, you come to the market, that's the strong, feel like that's something and basically you take this team and get to learn from each other. I learn from you, I see how actually you are. And I think it's smart, like you can say, like you have some smart for the youth. So I wanted to say came back with communication was most important.
Yeah.
Strengthen the relationship with your brothers, with your friends,
Mhm.
with your peers, and also reflect to say who you are, who you want to be, where you want to go, and we make that mistake. We accept your situation, we start when you accept your weakness, accept that's how it can move. It's okay, be yourself with what you have from that state, understanding yourself. And then
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah, thank you so much. Wow, you guys even need us, bro. Y'all even have your own community. You're driving us out of New York, mashallah, man. You got local talent right here. Sure, you're right. Actually, it's a global ummah. You're right. I apologize. Maybe it's a New York, New Jersey thing. You know. Mashallah. Mm, that's true. May Allah guide these two towards good spouses, inshallah. Yeah. So you get 2 good daughter-in-laws, inshallah. For this. So we'll do a couple then, Ahmed, and then we'll wrap up. For this. So what if your wife doesn't want to eat fish? I mean, honestly, for this one,
Is that fish?
that sounds
Is
like
that Egyptian?
it's Egyptian. Oh, because the Bengali has it too. They call it shutki. is what
I
they call
don't
it.
know it. Mama, we never made fasikh.
They'll cook it in the house.
I heard about this fish.
I mean, if your wife makes really smelly fish and it's like a breaking point in your relationship, then you should probably have a conversation about it. This question is, what if my wife does not want to eat it? Which what I'm getting from this is that the guy here really likes it
And he's gonna cook
and
it.
he's probably going to cook it and he doesn't want the wife to be offended by the smell. If that's the case, then I don't know. Like you can spray Axe deodorant on it when then serve it. That's one way to do it. You could put oud in like the oil. That way it smells like Medina. Oh yeah, you can eat it at her mom's house. That way her mom has to
I
smell
like
it
that answer.
instead of you. There you go. That works for me. So if you want to eat that, I would say have a conversation about that for this. What would you say is the best way to try and find a spouse, especially at a young age, as a college student? The best way to do it, like Alaa and I mentioned, is community. Actually, truthfully speaking, is community. Like Muslim dating apps, you can use Muslim dating apps. I'm not telling you not to use it. All I'm saying is that be responsible with your use. And honestly speaking, at high school, college age, most people are irresponsible with their use for a college. Like, you would have a very hard time finding a serious person on a dating app in MSA in college. You'll have a hard time.
Works
For
for some people.
yeah, for some people, like great, mashallah, but those people, just like the brother mentioned, you have an excellent knowledge of yourself. You're mature. You know
Yeah.
what you want. You know what you're looking for, and your goal
Focused.
set towards it. So the conversation doesn't devolve into nonsense when you're talking to each other about this stuff. You're laser focused on what's important for you for that.
When Omar says community, I just want to highlight that community is not only like the masjid community. As much as we like wish that our masjid communities do offer a lot of what we need and address our needs, which alhamdulillah, I think this community is trying and doing. But community is also where your interests are, right? Um, Conferences, go to, as college students, there are so many different conferences or activities, like extracurricular activities or things of sort that you might find individuals with like-minded interests, right? And I'd hope that as Muslims, we actually start to really build that. But also the reason is because you want to be able to hear from someone else what they know about that person. And old school was all about that, right? Like our uncles or our aunts would be able to tell so-and-so how so-and-so was, or, you know, their character, and they know each other from family. But like when people from word of mouth really can vouch for a person and tell honestly, well, here are some of their flaws, right? It helps you know like a person on another level.
So Alaa and I, like Anna mentioned, we met each other at the Muslim Mental Health Conference in DC. I went there to give a lecture. I was lecturing on domestic violence. Alaa went there to give a lecture, and Alaa was lecturing on autism in the Muslim community. This is a place where it's Muslim, it's the community, and I'm going there with a passion that I have for Islamic work and mental health. And Alaa is going with a passion for Islamic work and mental health, which means without the two of us even having a conversation, there's already a strong mutual foundation we have
Commonality.
on both Islamic work and mental health in a Muslim space with the Muslim community. We've already bonded on 4 levels, and we haven't even like said a word to each other.
And it was
for this
someone, it was someone in the middle who said, "Hey, these two might work,"
Yeah.
and asked if we'd be interested in getting to know each other.
So it sounds weird when
And that middle person is so valuable.
Absolutely. So like for the guys here, like how would you find people? Like do what you are passionate about and actually go do that work. If it's Islamic work, then Allahu Alam, you'll probably find someone when doing Islamic work who is doing the same work as you or similar work as you. If it's like political activism or engagement where you guys are fighting for Gaza, or you're fighting for like Syria, or you're fighting for something, and you find another sister who is just as passionate as you about this topic, well then the two of you have a mutual goal. You've actually bonded over something, and now you can build on something for that. If it's like, I don't know, education, if it's an MSA setting, college setting, doing a master's program, PhD program, Islamic studies, you're getting yourself in a jaza or whatever it is that you're doing, you found a mutual community space that isn't just necessarily like I'm carrying a bunch of chairs into the sister section and she's like, wow, mashallah, look at that guy. He can definitely lift. Please find out what his dad's number is. Like, you know, if you want to think that old school 1980s style of like getting to know a girl, like there is a lot of barakah in this. Can you use dating apps in this too? Yes, you can. Can you use word of mouth? Yes, you can. Can you use family contact? Yes, you can. All of it is available and open to you to use that. So use every resource available for that.
I would say put yourself out there too. Like let older brothers in this case, like who are married, know that you are interested in getting married, and see if they or their spouses or their family members may know someone who's looking. I don't know, like the Desi community, they have something called the biodata, and I didn't know what that was, but he asked me for a biodata, so I made one. But like honestly, as you know, I think it's not a bad idea for us to have a profile of like, and I'm not saying like, you know, dating app profile, but like something that just really lays out and have it kind of ready where you can share it with an older married person in the community. And I say older married person because, you know, they'll know people and they'll also be serious about helping you versus someone who's just, you know, as, you know, drowning in the ocean as you are.
You see the last question? Oh, it is? Okay, that's what I'm saying. It's like, is that brother okay? Like, hey, y'all all right? What is a reason to delay the nikah? I can think of like 50 million reasons to delay the nikah. I mean, again, it's skill-based matchmaking. So if you suck and your elo is low, like, it's probably a good reason to delay the nikah. You know, why would you go out with a guy with a very, very crappy KD ratio? So when do you stop making dua to marry someone? You never, ever, ever, ever stop making dua to marry someone. And once you've married someone, you still never, ever, ever stop making dua for them. And then if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes you away from them or takes them away from you, you never, ever, ever, ever stop making dua for them. It is a constant process, by the way. This is something that Alaa and I actually share, where Alaa will tell me, hey, Umar, in witr, when you make dua, could you make dua for like this? Could you make dua for that? Or can you make dua for us? Or can you make dua for our future? And I'll do that. Like, I'll make dua for Alaa, I'll make dua for us as a couple, I'll make dua for like our goals, I'll make dua for finances, I'll make dua for kids, I'll make dua for all this stuff. You never stop making dua.
Can I just point out, I
this.
love that you said that out loud, because when you make it common language between the two of you, that like Allah is between us, it really elevates what you have between you, right? And just to be able to make dua for each other out loud and through text, right? Like when one of us is boarding a flight, we'll text the other the dua that we're actually like, you know, we're texting each other knowing that, you know, there are times where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dictates this is a time that dua is answered. I do want to clarify though, if this question is saying when do you stop making dua to marry someone specific, I'd warn from making that dua to marry someone specific, because the dua istikhara is a better guide for how to make dua about something specific, if that makes sense. If you are making dua to marry this one person, you are limiting yourself, and it's such a narrow way of thinking and it's such a narrow way of being. And it could be dangerous because then you might be building an attachment. The more you make this dua, the more you actually want this person. And it's something that might not actually be as real. You might not really know everything about this person. And so I would just warn that just to reframe the way you're making dua. Dua is a very powerful tool, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala listens to your dua, and He loves your dua, and He is Al-Mujib. He will answer your dua. And He is Al-Hakim. So He will answer your dua in the best of way that is for you. So to kind of put your trust in how He's going to make things unfold for your marriage is so much better than you limiting your dua to one person, right? To a specific person.
Yeah, I would say make sure your duas are appropriate, make sure your duas are important to yourself. If you're making dua like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant my wife thickness, and you're thinking to yourself like this is a great dua, you know, for that, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, bro, like a weird dua to make, but like, all right, you know, then you can say, Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, please beautify myself so that I can be beautiful for my spouse. That's a great way to make that dua. Essentially, a guy would be like, why would I make dua for me to be thick? And I'm like, bro, I don't even know what to tell you, bro. It's like Allah said, like your dua is such a powerful thing. Like you're using it as a blunt weapon. You're cavemanning your dua. Like, bro, be sophisticated, you know, with your dua. So I hope inshallah that helps. Why can't your spouse also be your best friend? Because your spouse is more than just your best friend. Like I mentioned, I think I mentioned this, which is your spouse is half your deen. Bro, that's not a best friend. The completion of half your deen is not a BFF that like I'm gonna go out and get boba with. Like the completion of half my deen means that when I made the decision that I'm gonna marry Alaa, I am marrying Alaa for this dunya, and I am marrying Alaa for this akhirah. I am making the commitment that in this akhirah of infinite life in the akhirah, Alaa is going to be my spouse, in which she and I will be together in the highest levels of His gardens, living life in eternity together for that. So like, why can't your spouse be your best friend? Because you're thinking too small. That's what I'm saying. You're very like narrow-minded about this stuff. for that. You're thinking about your spouse like logging on and like, playing like Apex Legends with you, and I'm thinking to yourself like this BFF that you want for yourself. Like, great, bro, mashallah, you and your spouse can game together, but like you're thinking way too small.
You can
expand
have
out.
friendship in your spouse,
Yeah.
which I think is a part of what you're describing, right?
Yes.
Like, and when you think about like what is like define a friend or a best friend, one thing I would warn from is you don't want to make your spouse your all, right?
Yeah.
Like your spouse is not your everything. We're going to need time away from each other, and we're going to need our friends. We're going to need another best friend or a person that we can tap into to push us back in the ring when we're upset
Okay,
with
but
each other.
I'm jealous and possessive, and I don't like that you do that, because if you go and make other friends that are outside of me, then I'm going to think that you don't actually like me as much as I like myself, because I have low self-esteem, low self-worth, and I'm really attached to you because I never had attachment in my family, because my father never taught me proper attachment. So I'm super attached to you. So every single time you go out with your friends, I feel rejected and I feel abandoned. And I don't know what to do with my ejection and my abandonment. So I drown myself in my Xbox, thinking that as long as I can escape from this world and go into a digital world in which I am actually having a fantasy life, in which I'm living with happiness and dopamine hits outside of my wife, then I can somehow fill the crushing void in my heart until you eventually come home. And then I take out all my resentment on you because you made me feel like crap when I really should feel better about myself. And I don't know how to express myself otherwise. So,
Yeah.
huh? Yeah. Next time I'm gonna just wear hijab and I'm gonna go over there and be like, "What are you saying?
You tried
I
that
want to
once.
know what you and your girls are doing. Are you talking about me when you're there because my insecurity can't take it?"
Right.
Yeah.
You
for
see
that.
how like unhealthy attachment is so scary in a relationship. And
Oh, is that too
honestly,
real? I'm sorry, guys.
it is. It's absolutely so real.
I'm sorry.
And common. Like I will
Yes.
tell you, I have clients who are trying to break away from this unhealthy attachment where like they need space, they need to breathe. And it's males and females, the husband and the wife, right? Where like the husband might not be social and not doesn't want to go out. So he's he wants to stay at home, but that means she has to stay at home too. And that is so suffocating.
Yeah.
And if she's not in her like best environment, she's not going to be her best self for you either, right? If she's not thriving in what makes her feel like satisfied or fulfilled, right, in her talents and in her skills, she's not going to be her best self with you.
Yeah.
So you can have a friend in your wife. Obviously, we can have friendship and companionship and comfort and conversations, and we want to get to know each other and we want to play and just like have fun and whatever. All of that can happen, as well as also having healthy relationships outside.
Yes.
No marriage is going to, like, it's not a part of our deen to be a married couple in isolation. You are a married couple in community. You are a married couple in family, right? And you want to make sure that it builds that way and it doesn't shrink when you get married.
One thing that we did was within the first year of marriage, I actually started therapy, and I started meeting with my therapist, and I would have like these therapy sessions, and then I would come home and I would actually talk to Alaa about my therapy sessions and what I would go through and what I discuss and what kind of things I'd open up about. It's a very weird thing for like a Muslim man to be like, "I go to therapy." You're probably thinking to yourself like, "Omar's Majnoon," or "There's something wrong with him," or "I'm jinn possessed because I'm doing this." And what I can tell you honestly is that it was probably one of like Alaa, and don't even take my word for it. You can take Alaa's word for it. Like the best decision I ever made for the sake of myself and for the sake of our marriage was to go to therapy. I am doing what no other Muslim man in my family did. And the reason why is because when we, inshallah, have a kid, my kid will not hold the emotional weight that I'm going to dump on this kid because I didn't know how to handle that weight. Because that's how I grew up. And so the idea is to break the generational trauma, that whatever wounded me as a young boy, I will not wound another kid the same way. And so I'll do what the previous generation didn't. And that means having a hard conversation in therapy, going to therapy and actually getting help, for this. And I don't believe in my heart that it makes me less of a man. I don't believe it makes me effeminate. I don't think it makes me woke. I don't think it makes me gay. I don't think it makes me any of this stuff. I think all it does is make me a stronger person. I consider therapy to be tarbiyah. That's what I consider it. I consider it self-development, for that. So I would recommend it for most of the guys here, that if you really truly feel like you have suffered from a trauma, or you come from a broken dysfunctional family, or once a girl walks into your home and meets your siblings and meets your parents, it's going to be like game over, you're cooked, then like this is a serious question. It's like, what are you doing then to prepare, and what are you doing to help build yourself up? into a healthier version of yourself so that you don't bring that baggage from your family into your relationship and then make your girl your therapist. It doesn't work like that. So that's something that I did that I think, alhamdulillah, for us has been like a really big thing. So we're going to wrap up, but I know there are two. I think there was one. I forgot where I saw it. One of you brothers. There you go. Yes, Habibi. Like we're coworkers. Like
No, like you have your own role as something like that wouldn't be defined really as same.
I mean, sure. If you really want an honest answer to your question, like, can a marriage still work? Yes, it can. Is the marriage missing something? Yes, it is. So, for example, and I'm going to give you an example for this because this comes from our parents' generation. Your parents' generation and our parents' generation, they went through marriages without love. They went through marriages that were straight up just arranged.
And not all, right? Like
Yeah.
we're not going to generalize, but yeah,
Like
there's different
straight up,
purposes.
like in our parents' generation, it was perfectly normal to just be like, "Yo, there's this girl we know. She comes from a good family. You're gonna marry her, and you're gonna meet her for the first day on your nikah, and then you guys are gonna have a relationship."
And they made it work.
And they made it work. And like you think to yourself, well, like that just sounds like insanity for doing that. But like, dude, back in the 70s and 80s, like that is literally what we did. Like that's what our parents' generation did. And these are loveless marriages in which they had to figure out how to live with each other. And then, unlike most marriages where you actually wait 4 or 5 or 6 years in order to build a relationship and then have a kid, most of our parents' generation had a kid within the first year or two of marriage. You didn't even get to build a relationship. You already got a kid in the picture and you're already parents to begin with. Like, ask the older gentleman here, like, that's how it was. So, like, to answer your question, like, can you have a marriage without, like, friendship? Like, yes, you can, but your marriage is missing something and you've got to build it. Can you have a marriage without love? Yes, you can, but shoot, dude, dang, is your marriage missing something, like, pretty heavy and hardcore? And, like, when inshallah, when Allah blesses you with kids, are your kids going to see that in your relationship? And the answer to that question is a resounding yes. Kids are not idiots. Kids can see a relationship and what's in a relationship and how a relationship works for that. So like the basis of how most of us see marriage and how we see like our potential spouses comes from our parents' relationships. That's the first time like a young boy learns what a marriage even is through his parents' relationship, his aunts and uncles' relationship, his grandparents' relationships. And if all these relationships are like dysfunctional, well, then your entire perspective on marriage is going to be dysfunctional. That's what it's going to be. So the person teaching you what marriage is like is going to be Andrew Tate and Aiden Ross and like Sneeko and whatever. Like this is, or Jordan Peters, whatever. Take your pick for whatever you guys want to listen to. But like this is where you're going to learn what like marriages are going to be because you didn't see it, at home. So for the sake of your kids, your future kids, may Allah bless all of you guys with kids. But for the sake of your future kids, make sure that whatever you're letting your kids see in you is something that is beautiful and healthy, and it's what you genuinely want, between yourselves, for that. So if you didn't see it in your family, make niyyah that I will have it in my relationship. Is that a better way to put it? Like if I didn't see it in my family, this is what I want then, in my relationship. So
I briefly say that you spend a lot of time trying to get driver's license, but none of us really get married life. And
dang, it just hit me. Yeah, just wow. All right, mashallah. I didn't think of that.
like if you don't put the time to learn, it will show out there who you are.
Yeah.
The more you kind of ignore.
Yeah. Jazakallah khair. So
Thank you so much.
any final words?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly why we hope to continue being, our communities continue being open to courses, right? Conversations and skill building. So we honestly just want to thank you guys for having
Yes.
us, for showing up, for, being here, because without you guys, we would just be talking to no one. So Jazakallah khair.
Kind of wild, dude. Like normally when we do mental health events, there's like 50 million sisters, and then like maybe 10 dudes that like unfortunately had to like drive them, and like they just needed to be there. And like the guys are just like complete, like just kill me now. Like I can't do this. This is probably the first time I've experienced where like there's mad dudes
Alhamdulillah.
and like maybe just a small handful of girls, and they all dipped. So like it's mostly like I gotta give a shout out to ICUC. You guys are the first to do that. Like, honestly, y'all are mashallah, man. Shout out to y'all.
It begs a lot of questions for me. Are there spaces for the women? Like, are the women feeling as comfortable and confident coming to the masjid? Like,
All right.
Okay, good. Good. Alhamdulillah. I saw that. Much respect. So the brothers had to sit
Yes.
on the floor and the sisters.
Prenups. Ah. Yeah. So okay. So prenup is for the guys who don't know. I mean, you probably all know because like every basketball player you know and every like famous soccer, like every single sport athlete you know got married always has a prenup. And the reason being is because a prenup protects against your assets in divorce. So usually, if someone is signing a prenup before they're in a relationship, you are already presuming that in the event of a divorce, I am shielding and protecting myself in this divorce. And that's the point of a prenup, in that I don't ever want to like Jeff Bezos myself or like half my wealth is being given to my spouse and my whole net worth gets cut in half. My opinion on prenups is that it comes from a defensive way of looking at a relationship. The nia you have going into a relationship is that you're already preparing for divorce when you're entering into a relationship. It's a very odd way to enter into a relationship because you're already walking in telling your spouse that you will not have claims to my money and my assets in the event of a divorce, which to me flies in the face of the sunnah because the whole point of the sunnah is that in the event of divorce, a woman is protected because she is given assets and she's given money and she's given resources and support so that as a divorcee, she's able to stand on her own 2 feet and keep moving. Versus if you have a prenup situation where you force your spouse to sign a prenup and then whatever reason a divorce happens, she is left with nothing, which means that when she is a divorcee, she is at the complete mercy of her community and her family. And if her family is not supportive, and if her community isn't supportive, well, then this sister is pretty much gone at that point. You're looking at a sister who's homeless or in a shelter system, or a sister who cannot support herself in this case. And for me, I believe that to be against the sunnah, that you cannot allow a Muslim sister to go through something like this. If you truly feel in your heart that I am fearful of, I'm going to lose my Lamborghini if I get into a relationship with you because you're going to take my car, and I genuinely need to sign a prenup so that you don't take my car in the event of divorce, well, then you could have an honest conversation with your spouse about your fears and insecurities financially, and then tell your spouse that, hey, look, like if Allah on him, should something happen and like, you know, we have to go through this sort of process, can I ask for like a concession, or at least in our nikah contract, can we write that this particular asset will not be used and all that? If you truly mean that much to you, where like you really don't ever want like this girl to get your Pokemon cards or to like to not get like something you've saved up since childhood and you don't want her to have it, then okay, have an honest conversation about that. But like slapping a prenup in front of her and telling her sign this or no nikah is, I consider that inherently coercive, you know, to do that.
And the best prevention really is these courses
Yeah.
and these conversations and premarital work.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. So yes. So this is where we. Yeah. Yeah. This gets into like the nitty gritty details where, like I know a few cases where the nikah contract is edited, and in the nikah contract, the edits are that there are specific things that I'm dictating in this nikah contract, and that if for us to get married, you got to agree to these things. And it works both ways, where the girl can dictate to the guy that I specifically want this in the nikah contract, and if you don't sign it, then we're not getting married. And the guy can do the same to the girl about this stuff. If it gets to the point where you're arguing over the contract itself, then that means that in the premarital conversations, you never actually talked about it. This was never a conversation you had, and it wasn't a serious conversation. You didn't actually sit and hash it out, you know, for yourselves, because then you'd realize that, like, is this really what we want the marriage to be? Is the first step of our marriage a hostage negotiation with our finances? Like, is this what you will begin your marriage on? Within like, as professionals, I would have to question the khair of your relationship, because if this is the way you guys are now, shoot, like the brother mentioned, fast forward 15, 20 years, where are you going to be in your relationship? Are you going to fight over your kids' finances? Are you going to fight over like debt? Are you going to fight over like assets in the home? Are you going to fight over home ownership? Are you going to fight over car ownership? Like, what are you guys? Are you going to every single conversation going to be a battle when you guys have to like pay rent. Like this to me is like a very, very tenuous, shaky relationship. Like you are heading towards divorce if this is the case. So like in these premarital conversations, have honest conversations. Like talk about, then say it. I talk about it. Say it that like, look, I don't want to prenup. I don't want that. But I want to make sure that I trust you and you trust me. And we're both going to be okay, inshallah. And that if something should happen in which we get divorced, here's how we can like do it. And imagine that, having a conversation about divorce before a nikah contract. Like if that to me is like, it's a lot of maturity to do that. It takes a lot of maturity to be able to have that. And that's how you know you're ready and she's ready. Because you guys have like, you've upped your game. And you're not asking about like, what's your favorite Disney Pixar movie and what's your favorite color. You guys are straight up asking that like, look, if like the worst thing were to happen in both our lives, how would you handle it? How would I handle it? How would we get through it together? You know, for that. Like that to me is huge, dude. Like if y'all can handle that kind of question, y'all are ready. You guys are more than ready for that. Yes. Well, yeah, inshallah. By the way, your daughter is super adorable, mashallah. Super adorable. I wish I could do flips like that. May Allah increase me in flexibility. I mean.
Sometimes one party may be, I would say, ready from knowledge, perspective, understanding of something that they'll share, but the other party isn't. Either maturity, exposure, or time. Sometimes if you know the fact that, yeah, you can explain to this person that, trust me, I want this, this is just a contract, blah, blah, blah. And that doesn't get upset on the surface. But we understand that it's okay. This thing, all right, and if something happens, the other party can have to work for it. Oh, yes, I agree that I'm going to come accountability. No, someone that you know, someone that has a degree or JD, who will tell her that, no, take all the Lamborghinis, take all the land, take everything. So sometimes the reality we see in this country is someone forcing a Muslim to even come with that idea of, I need to go straight up. Which I agree with you, is that it shows that there's no good coming from anyone. It shows what we have of real Muslims, right? I love doing it. But how do you, my personality, how do you balance that perspective that this person is well knowledgeable for the concept of marriage and what I need to invest? Not because you're younger or because you're exposed or don't have capacity to, but you're ready, right? The person is ready.
Got it. Yeah. So to answer your question for that case, that's where I recommend marriage counseling. That's you have to have a counselor, a third party between the two of you, who is a professional, who can then ask this particular person that, like, oh, it sounds like this person's ready, but it sounds like she's not. And then with both of you sitting together, it can then say, what makes you ready? What makes you not ready? Why are you not ready? What are the hesitations you have? Where are the hesitations coming from? Why do you feel ready to go ahead when she's feeling hesitating? Did you guys even talk about the hesitations? What are the hesitations? Are they financial? Are they spiritual? Are they like value-based? Are they family-based? Is it in-law-based? Is it kid-based? Is it like academic-based? Like there's like 100 different things that can cause hesitation in a relationship. What is causing the hesitation in the relationship? Maybe it's a trauma that they experienced in the past where they were wounded or hurt by a man in the past. And they do love you and they do care for you and do want to marry you, but there's something emotionally holding them back that they're not ready to tell you yet, for that. And for a lot of people, this can be something very scary for them, to suffer from. For a lot of young men in particular, particularly young men who have a history of abuse or a history of being sexually violated, a lot of men would love to be in a relationship, but are intensely fearful of a relationship because they've been violated before or wounded before, and so they can't see that. Or if they come from a broken family in which they watched as their father was abused, or they watched as like their mother was abused, they want none of that. They want none of that. So like even though in a relationship everything's clicking, it's all working, everything feels great, but then one spouse is just like, I can't, I don't know what to do, I can't move forward. I mean, that's huge. Then that requires a therapist. That requires, like, you need a professional to sit with you and be like, talk to me about the trauma. What has happened to you? What's going on? Why can't you move forward? Why are you hesitating? Is this really a prenup situation? Or are you using the prenup as a mask because there's something scarier underneath that you're not ready to talk about? for this. Very, very rarely would Alana encounter someone to be like, I didn't marry because of the Lamborghini. I would just in my head be like, well, okay, that's weird. Like, you didn't marry because of the Lamborghini. The truth of the matter is that the Lamborghini is just the surface. What's underneath is that that person was deeply worried or traumatized or anxiety or depression or something was up, something happened in the family, and they're not ready for the next step, for that. And especially if you're a guy, a man, you don't even know how to have this conversation because none of us have this conversation. I can't tell you the last time I sat with another guy and opened up and said, let me tell you about my therapy session. Has any of you even ever had a conversation like this with another guy, where a guy genuinely told you from his heart, these are my fears. I'm genuinely fearful of this. I have straight up anxiety, or I feel depressed about this stuff. Like, most guys will just be like, well, I don't know, bro, like, come lift weights or something. Or like, bro, just hop online. Like, we're going to game tonight. Or like, or just like, it sucks to be you. Or like, like, or it be like it is, just, that's just how it is. And, and you can imagine, like, take a guy like this now and put him with a girl who since 13 years old is like marriage ready. And she is like, I'm ready for a relationship. Like, I'm ready to go. And put these two together. Like, you can see how everything could click and work. And how at the very, very end, a guy would just be like, I don't know. She's asking me how I feel about, like, picking out flowers or picking out whatever. And he was like, I've never in my life opened up about this stuff. I don't care. And I keep telling her, I don't care about this. And then she's getting hurt that I'm telling her I don't care. It's like, bro, I mean it as a compliment that I don't care. Like, I'll handle important stuff. You handle whatever this is. And then you realize that the relationship is already on very shaky ground. So I hope, inshallah, that at least gives a little sense of this. Because honestly, and like we'll tell you from our experience, like, majority of the reasons why a lot of these marriages have hesitation and difficulty is because of trauma. It's because of underlying trauma that we as a Muslim community have not talked about or addressed.
The hard part is when a person wants to, or not, doesn't want to, but now they're forced to address it 5-10 years into their marriage. And that's where they realize their entire marriage was built upon or based upon, a whole bunch of hopes, dreams, expectations, lies, and they're no longer gonna suffer in it. Yeah.
I wish I could say that there's like a Muslim problem. It's like a more of an American problem. It's just our whole society is like this. But like, it's a very uniquely Muslim problem that we're also experiencing. So I know we're way past time. I do want to apologize, Asif. Yeah, but I before we conclude, I did want to give a very special shout out to my good friend Ahmed and your family and your whole crew, like your whole family, mashallah. Alaa and I would not be here, and we wouldn't even be doing this at ICUC if it wasn't for you, like, coordinating all this. But I wanted to say, like, whatever barakah came out of tonight, whatever barakah for anybody that came out of tonight, may Allah SWT grant you and your whole crew the sadaqah jariyah for that. For this. And if any marriages in the future come from this and the marriages are stable, may Allah SWT grant all of you the sadaqah jariyah for that entire relationship and all the progeny from that relationship. And may Allah grant you the sadaqah jariyah, for that as well. So this is something where Alaa and I are like, we love, like, this is what we do. We love doing this. Like, it's just our thing for that. If you guys want to have like a guy-only session, if you want to have a sisters-only session, if you want to have like a session about marriage itself, marital conflict, if you want to have a session on divorce, you want to have a session on premarital, like, name it for ICUC for what you guys want to do and how you guys want to go. And then we are at your service, for this, inshallah. So I just wanted to say Jazakallah khair, and thank you guys so much, for giving us your time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this a process that is smooth and easy for all the single brothers that are here and for all the married brothers that are here. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to increase and grow. Oh, word, dude, mashallah, bro. Mabruk to you, man. Congrats, bro. Wait, did your wife come through? Stuff. Wow, bro. Wow, bro. Come on, man. Really?
That's really good. That's a beautiful story.
Yasser, bro. Nice, man.
That's a very beautiful story.
That is
You
a
guys
beautiful
are really
story.
one big family.
Yeah.
Mashallah, may Allah put barakah.
I mean,
Well, thank you guys so
thank you
much
guys.
again.
This is like we're looking from. No, we do have to get to. We do have to get to. Oh, yeah. We try to do I hope they didn't work. We don't want to be very oh, you're yes.
I promise not. But I should be like, never stop.
No, I was also I mean, like, it's something where I was very hard. I'm thinking of, I was going to I'm already available and exams coming on. And not like, so you're going to keep from I'm sorry. These are my cards. My cards. No, oh, what? I was thinking of getting you out. Oh, no, I'm not getting it. Okay, you can do this actually.